10 o'clock, so I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. The chair notes there's a quorum present. We'll do the flag salute. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we will go into 2.0, which is additions and revisions to the agenda. You guys have anything?
Don't.
I think it's long enough.
I was just do it. Please don't add it.
It's pretty aggressive, so
We could delete, but let's not.
I don't have anything to add. So let's go into correspondence and public comment. Individuals wishing to address the county court may do so at this time and at other times throughout the meeting. Speakers are asked to raise your hand to be recognized by the chair. Give your name and address and limit comments to 3 minutes. You are signing in via Zoom and you dialed in. It's *6 to unmute yourself, or there's an unmute button in the lower left-hand screen. And then I always remind folks that we are very informal here. So as we move through the agenda, if there's something that you have a question about or want to make comment as we move through, we are open to hear it as we go. So any public comments to start out? Doesn't look like it. And I don't have any correspondence. So we will go right into 4.0, which is the public hearing for the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. This is the time duly set and advertised for a public hearing in the matter of the Gilliam County fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. The hearing is for the purpose of receiving public comment and responding to questions regarding resolution number R 2021-06, adopting the budget, making appropriations, and imposing taxes for fiscal year July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. This is a legislative hearing. All those in attendance that wish to testify are asked to sign the attendance sheet. The hearing is now open. And let's go into the treasurer's report. Do you have anything for us, Nathan?
Well, the treasurer doesn't really have much report. Budget came together pretty well. I don't think there's a lot of conflict, and it's just kind of normal increases, nothing outstanding. We did create a couple of new funds. Corrections was a new fund, and we did some consolidation of economic investment, but it's not finished. I don't think. I think that's work for the upcoming year. After that, I'll have a report.
Questions for Nathan? We were all there.
Yes, we sat through that.
We were all there.
Yes.
Any public testimony on the budget? Let's see, any in the courtroom, it's mostly staff. Anybody on the Zoom that wants to make any comments regarding the budget? This is sort of the last call, so I'll give folks a minute to unmute. Looks like it's just Catherine in the port, so. Okay, then I will go ahead and close the hearing. The hearing is hereby closed. And we both have conflicts, I think, that we have to declare.
Yes,
so, so I will, I need to declare a conflict of interest because my father is the lead department director. And so his salary is embedded in this budget. And so I need to declare a conflict of interest.
And I will declare a conflict of interest because my son is the assessor and he's in here too.
And so folks know who are listening in, the Ethics Commission has advised us that when we have multiple court members who have a conflict that would make us lose our quorum, we are allowed to go ahead and vote. So that's why you'll see us declare the conflict and still vote anyway. There's a special exemption in the law when you lose a quorum if you have multiple court members that are conflicted out. Okay, so let's move into consider approval of resolution number R 2021-06, adopting the budget, making appropriations, and imposing taxes for fiscal year July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. Discussion or motion, guys?
Ready?
You want me to do it or?
I
you?
can do it.
Either way, I don't care.
I move to approve resolution number R 2021-06, adopting the fiscal year 2021-22 budget, making appropriations and imposing and categorizing taxes in the amount of $80,608,262 and a tax rate of 3.845% for 1,000 of assessed value of all taxable property within the county.
Second.
Mouthful.
It was.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve resolution number R 2021-06, adopting 2021-22 budget, making appropriations and imposing and categorizing taxes in the amount of $80,608,262 and a tax rate of 3.845% per 1,000 of assessed value of all taxable property within the county. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Now we'll move into 5.0, which is the public hearing. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Nathan and Kelly,
For all your hard work. I thought it went really, really smoothly this year.
Yes.
Every year it gets a little bit more. Yep.
Do better next year.
Good work.
Little work to do next year.
All right, we do it.
Okay, let's go into public hearing. Consider ordinance number 2021-04, an ordinance amending the Gilliam County zoning and land development ordinance. This is the time duly set and advertised for a public hearing in the matter of consideration of Gilliam County ordinance number 2021-04. The ordinance amends Gilliam County zoning and land development ordinance Article 4 by adding section 4.140 rural residential 3 and amending the comprehensive plan and zoning maps to apply the rural residential 3 zone and rural residential designation to the platted subdivision known as Dunn's Addition to the city of Condon. Gilliam County land use file number L 2021-03. The hearing is now open. The public hearing will be conducted as follows. Staff will give their report and answer any questions from members of the county court. Following the staff report, I will then open the hearing for public testimony, proponent, neutral, and opponent. After the opportunity for public testimony, members of the county court may have additional questions for staff. Then the county court will decide whether to close the hearing and deliberate the matter. I will now ask members of the county court to disclose any conflicts of interest or other matters that might preclude your participation in these proceedings. Please indicate the nature of the conflict and state whether you intend to participate in these proceedings.
I have no conflicts.
None here either. Does anybody wish to challenge the ability of any member of the county court to participate in these proceedings? Again, for folks who are joining us via Zoom, it's *6 if you dialed in, and then the unmute is in the lower left-hand corner. Okay, let's go on to rules. So, testimony. When you testify, please state your name and address for the record. The hearing is being recorded. Please be courteous and avoid repetitive or redundant testimony. Please keep your testimony concise and relevant to the issues before us this morning. Testimony should address the applicable approval criteria listed in staff report. All testimony shall be directed towards the county court and not to other members of the audience. To expedite the hearing, the members of the county court may ask questions of persons as they testify. The applicable criteria are listed in the staff report. These are the criteria the members of the county court will use to make its decision. If you believe there are additional applicable approval criteria, please identify such criteria when providing your testimony. Failure to raise an issue with sufficient specificity to afford the members of the county court and all parties an opportunity to respond to an issue may preclude an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue, and may preclude the ability to pursue an action for damages in circuit court. Staff will now present the staff report and any correspondence on this matter other than those items already included in the report. Come on up, Kirk.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you all. This is part two of what we looked at about 2 months ago, I think, right? Within the urban growth boundary north of Cottonwood. This area is a bit different. It's west of that. The limits are the city limits, although it's outside the city limits. And then to the east, it's Brown Lane. So this is different because it's outside the urban growth boundary. We went to the planning commission and they asked us to look at alternative. That's why this one's behind the other one. We looked at an alternative solution of maybe returning this area back into the urban growth boundary. We explored that a little bit. They decided to go ahead with the initial proposal, which was to rezone it rural residential 3, which looks a lot like the rural residential 2 that you all approved for the other area, except you'll notice that the difference is that the minimum acreage is 10, which seems ridiculous because nothing up there is 10 acres. So the idea with that is that we have to take an exception to this area from it being exclusive farm use, which it is, to being rural residential, which means all new exception areas by Oregon statute have to be a minimum of 10 acres. So all those lots up there will be legally platted lot. That subdivision has been there since like 1905. There's always been houses there. Some of those houses are even before 1905 as well now. So the idea is it will be rural residential, and people will have more freedom to do what they're already doing there. Subdividing those properties will still be very tricky, maybe not impossible, as we discussed with the planning commission. So it'll make the residences more conforming, and it'll also continue to allow everything that is there. So it's a similar structure to what we did for the other one, except whereas there we're working to make sure Lane's property was able to expand on the land that he's on. We're similarly making sure that the feed store and veterinary clinic can expand on the property that they're on. So the exception, the sort of what's permitted looks different, but the ideas are the same. It's just we have the 2 different oddball uses on those properties. So it would be changing from exclusive farm use off to rural residential. So that's changing the comp plan and the zoning map, which is one deal. And then that's taking an exception to statewide planning goal 3. And we'll be adding a new draft of that rural residential 3. Does anybody have any questions?
No, but I might have a conflict.
Yeah, I think you do. I think you do.
So I better declare conflict with the feed store on that property. It's son and her wife own that.
Got it. Sherry, do you have questions?
I don't think so.
So is there anything that's any uses that are currently happening that those will all still be allowed under this change?
Right.
Okay.
Because it's primarily, besides the feed store, it is just light agricultural stuff, a couple horses, and then there are homes. And right now, it's a kind of a gray area. Same with the industrial layer, what those homes would be allowed to do, if they'd be allowed to expand or be rebuilt if there was a fire or something.
Got it.
So this allows it that it's cut and dry. Yes, there can be houses here, they can expand. So it should give further property rights on those existing ones.
We're just cleaning up what's already there.
Exactly. Yep. Same idea where it's like, let's try to allow what we already have,
Right.
because it's not going to be farmed anytime soon.
Yeah,
So
we hope not. We
We
want
hope
those
not,
houses
yeah.
to stay there.
exactly. That's the thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
More residential land.
Okay, so I don't have any more questions, do you?
I do know.
So we will move into public testimony then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kurt. At this time, we will receive public testimony. Proponents of the application shall speak first. Opponents of the application shall speak second. Neutral testimony shall proceed third, and any agency comments next. So we'll start with this. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the application? So for folks who are signing in via Zoom, if you can unmute yourself with *6 or in the lower left-hand corner. And I'll just give the folks a second to see if anybody would like to speak in favor. Do not see anybody. Is there anybody who wishes to speak in opposition to the application? courtroom? Looks like it. Anybody on the Zoom? I'm always nervous. I'm going to skip too fast and people are mad and trying to, yeah, trying to unmute. Okay, how about neutral testimony? Is there anybody who wishes to provide neutral testimony? It is. How about anybody representing an agency who wishes to speak? We're coming to the end of this.
Good smiling.
This is last call. Anybody? All right, I don't see anybody. Rick, do you have anything to add?
No, thanks.
There's no, it says to see if you have any response to the testimony, but I'm guessing no.
More silence.
Yes,
There's
more
not
silence. Does any member of the county court have further questions of staff?
I do not.
Okay. So the county court may at this time, if additional oral testimony is necessary, continue the hearing to a date and time certain. If continued to a date certain, the record will remain open until the date of the continued hearing for the submission of written testimony, or we can close the hearing now and proceed to deliberations. How do the members of the county court wish to proceed?
Let's close and deliberate.
I'm for that too. Okay, so if there are no further questions, no further discussion, I will now close the public hearing. And so we'll go into possible first reading of ordinance number 2021-04, an ordinance providing for amendments to the Gilliam County Zoning and Land Development Ordinance. And I will read all of that later if we decide to go with the motion. So is there any further discussion by members of the county court?
I have none.
Yeah.
So then I move to approve the amendments to the Gilliam County Zoning and Land Development Ordinance as proposed, and proposed comprehensive plan zone maps under land use file number L 2021-03 based on findings of fact and conclusions of law contained in staff report.
I will second that. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the amendments to the Gilliam County Zoning and Land Development Ordinance as proposed, and proposed comprehensive plan zone maps under land use file number L 2021-03 based on findings of fact and conclusions of law contained in the staff report. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, do you want to do first reading, Sherry?
I would. I move to accept the first reading of ordinance number, is that where we are?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I move to accept the first reading of ordinance number 2021-04 by title only.
I will second it. It's been moved and seconded that we accept the first reading of ordinance number 2021-04 by title only. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, this is ordinance number 2021-04 in the county court for the state of Oregon in and for the county of Gilliam. In the matter of an ordinance providing for amendments to the Gilliam County Zoning and Land Development Ordinance affecting Article 4, adding Section 4.140, Rural Residential 3, Zone, and amending the comprehensive plan map and zoning map to apply Rural Residential 3 to the platted subdivision known as Dunn's Addition to the city of Condon. Then we got to accept it.
Oh, so now I move to accept the first reading of ordinance number 2021-04 by title only.
Exactly.
We're ahead of ourselves.
Yes, so I would second that. It's been moved and seconded to accept the first reading of ordinance number 2021-04 by title only. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so for folks who are riveted by this stuff, ordinance are adopted over the course of 2 readings held at least 13 days apart. And so during the next regular court meeting, we will likely have this back to do the second reading and final adoption. So thank you, Kirk, for all your work on
Yes,
this.
thank you.
And good job, Michelle.
Yeah, thank you both.
Have a good day.
You
You
too.
too. Okay, let me just organize this real quick. Okay, let's go into 6.0, which is the consent agenda.
Anything to discuss in the consent agenda?
No, I don't.
You do not. I move we accept the consent agenda.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the consent agenda, which consists of consider approval of May 19th, 2021 regular meeting minutes, consider approval of May 19th, 2021 work session minutes, consider approval of May 19th, 2021 executive session minutes, and consider approval of fiscal year 2021-2022 USDA Agriculture and Plant Health Inspection Service Wildlife Services, it's APHIS-WS, work and financial plan. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And I see Shane. Are you here for USDA and APHIS?
Yes, I am. I'm just listening, unless you need something from me.
I was just going to note that I think we have you on we're getting you scheduled for an upcoming agenda so that he can kind of walk through what they do and
Yep,
that.
Perfect.
Yeah, good.
yep, in July.
We've approved the plan and the financials, and then we'll wait to hear from you for July for all the nitty-gritty details.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, let's go into unfinished business. 7.1, which is consider approval of Shuttle Station Industrial Ground Lease Agreement with Morgan Industrial Incorporated. Sherry.
Okay, well, we have produced a final lease, and the only difference in the original lease is we were adjusting it so that we didn't have to go through all the amendments every time they adjusted how much property they were actually using and wanted to pay rent on. And the rent amount is the same as it was, and the areas are the same. And I have been in contact with Jeremy Green, our attorney, and Eric Sander. We've worked together to put this together, and I gave him verbal permission to go ahead and start moving stuff in, as we're working off the old lease anyway, and this one just helps us so that we don't have to go through all that administrative work to
Yes,
make
the
those.
treasurer's office thanks, consideration not having to send invoices every month, because
Right.
it's not that we can't do it or are unwilling, but it does take time.
Yeah. And Eric's been really good,
And I love that we don't have to
Easy to work
go
with.
back to council every 3 months when they need the footprint
Do
changed.
do we have to go to the court if they change the acreage, or does that sound
that's,
Legal.
that, yeah, that's,
we come before the court to change if they change? Is this lease, I guess the question, this lease for that amount of acres is through March of 22?
yes. But he can go in and out as he's using it. So if he uses the east side,
Okay.
then he's paying rent on that.
Right.
But if he isn't
So-
using it, then he just contacts and says, the treasurer's
I
office, and
think
says,
we have precedence for that too, because our track lease with Waste Management, they just report every month how many cars
Cars
are there,
Yeah.
on what days, so.
Does this take in, I mean, I know it's 35 acres and it has all the description on that. Does
Right.
it take in absolutely all the acreage that's left there?
that's available.
Available, including what would be west of the buckwheat lab?
No. That is not a part of
I
it.
mean, that's not
This
really been
actually,
developed.
yeah, this part here is just, no. Nothing's being used there. It's just scrub ground at this point. So it's just the east side, the piece between integrated bakeries and the batch plant, and then the small piece on the other side of,
Is the batch
then
plant
the
is on
big
a
piece.
separate lease still?
yes.
Don't let them park on the leach field down there on that piece on the north end. Had issues with that in the past. So
With where at?
there's a leach field, the septic system down there. like straight across the batch plant, basically, get too far out there, so. See anybody parking there? I don't know exactly where it is, but we can figure it out.
Probably ought to be marked off.
Do we need to put some signage up there?
Probably wouldn't hurt anything.
Yeah, it should be probably marked off. so you
Make a
don't
note
end up-
for, Reese is making a note for Daryl
Okay,
to get some
good.
signage.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions?
No.
Do you have any issues? Okay.
Any issues, just trying to make sure I understand. So I guess the one thing would be if some other entity came along and they want to, we're trying to cite something there, we're pretty much tied up until the 22nd of March, no matter what.
And with the bureaucracy that we work with, it would take longer than that to get
I
something.
understand.
Thankfully.
But yes, but I see, but I totally understand your question.
We wouldn't want
Yes.
to miss a
Right, an
opportunity
opportunity.
for a
Right.
rail car repair facility or something. That
Right.
could go in there for long-term permanent
Mhm.
existing facility.
So do we have a motion?
I would love to make a motion. I move to approve the industrial ground lease agreement with Morgan Industrial Incorporated as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the industrial ground lease agreement with Morgan Industrial Incorporated as presented. So further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yay,
Had a
good
long
work,
time.
Sherry. Good work. Administratively, it's gonna make a huge difference. I love those little things that clean up some stuff. Okay. 7.2, discuss and possible action on courthouse phone system modernization. Kelly. I hope you're coming with some good news.
Oh, I hope so. I think we have good news.
Got a lot of
So-
stuff.
Well, questions. Sometimes you guys ask questions, catch me off guard, so I brought one.
Okay, you're ready.
I am.
Came prepared.
So I'm going to give a real quick recap of what we've been doing. Way back in October of 2020 was when I started the bid process and had, I believe, 5 bids came in at that time. And we sorted through them and picked one company that sounded great, but we could not come to a contracting agreement with them. So we went back to square one, and by then it was March already. So in March, I went back to square one. I sent out an RFQ to 6 entities that work with the state of Oregon procurement program, and I got 1 response. That 1 response isn't fully compatible with Gilliam County's systems that we have otherwise. It was a Google versus Microsoft kind of thing. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty, but it was doable, but a lot of work. So we tried one more time. I got 1 more response from Vonage, which has been around for a long time in the VoIP industry. And this is the bid that I am proposing today. Vonage, I did a demo with them a week or so ago, and it's a lot of the same system. You know, everybody has basically the same features, their own platform. The neat thing about Vonage is that it does integrate with Microsoft Teams, which we've been trying to use a little more here at the county. Some of us are more familiar with it than others. But that enables us to use the Vonage phone in the Teams app. So you have one application open for your internal chat, your calendar management, your video chat, and now your phone system too. You can do that from the computer. We would also, of course, still have desk phones for people who are attached to desk phones or need to still have that as a comfort. Sometimes the desk phone's handier than a computerized phone. This bid from Vonage and Company encompasses all of Gilliam County's locations. So this would be for the road department, the courthouse, the justice court, the fairgrounds, the library. The only one that's left out is ARO because they don't have a telephone line up there.
Who?
Arlington Sheriff's
Oh,
Office.
okay. Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
I saw that in the.
Yeah. So they requested to be left out.
So that would bring us all kind of together on one system. We could transfer calls from the courthouse to the Arlington Justice Court, just a transfer instead of well, here's their phone number, you have to call them. We could dial their internal extension rather than calling them, people, things like that. And then if we look at the bid, the bid may get adjusted a little bit as we go through contracting phases because they quoted us the base phones at $0, but I think we want to upgrade those a little bit.
What are we paying now per month?
Right now, just for the courthouse service, we're at about $1,100 a month.
So this is actually a savings of getting everything
Yeah,
tied together.
by the time you add all the.
And then who would transfer? That go to Teresa? How would that all calls come out?
So we would have an auto attendant for the main 800 number so that we don't have to have someone answering all of the calls that are coming in. So the auto attendant would, of course, probably have a press 0 for Teresa, sorry. But otherwise people could self-direct themselves to the offices, and we'll sit down and kind of plan that all out as to how, what menu that sends you to and how to get to the office you're looking for.
When we talked, I think back in October, there was some questions about the phone numbers themselves.
Yes.
Is that we're
So
going to be dropping our old?
With the phone numbers, yes, we will most likely need to change numbers. This company did say that they've worked with a few businesses that have the exemption and that don't have to port numbers, but they've convinced them to port the numbers before. I think that's a long shot. So I would count on we're going to be changing our numbers. But they did say that they should be able to get a block of the same prefix. It's not guaranteed because they just have to see what numbers are available in the pool at the time you make the switch. But we have a small enough amount of phone numbers that they're fairly confident that we get a block.
That would be good. Mm-hmm. Less confusing.
Yeah.
New contact list.
Yeah.
Questions for Kelly on this?
Not me.
If the court wants to move forward, we don't currently have the agreement reviewed by legal counsel, and so we're just looking for consensus. If this sounds good, then we would go, Kelly and I would work together to get legal counsel to look at the contracts and bring that piece back to the court for final approval. So this is not the final decision, but we're looking for consensus if this is the direction you would like us to go in, and to go ahead and have legal counsel look at the contract.
Yeah. Thank you for finally getting us to somewhere.
Finally.
Yay, this is exciting.
Oh, I know.
I think my first week at the county, Kelly was talking about what she was hoping to work on, and the phone system.
This has been a very ongoing project.
Yes,
So,
it will be nice when it gets
yeah.
wrapped
And
up.
just this morning, the phones were offline again for a little bit. So it's
Oh,
something
really?
I'm really hoping to get.
Every time they go down, I think Kelly holds her breath for like 15 minutes.
Thankfully, I don't notice most of the time, or when I do notice, it is just coming back on. So.
And I wanted to let the commissioners know, because they aren't earshot of me, but I probably get 3 or 4 calls a week for the justice court. And so it would be nice to be able to transfer them, because a lot of people call them on their cell and like, well, you have to call this number. So that would be really nice for those people.
Sure.
More efficient.
Justice court calls?
Yeah. Got one the other day. Somebody on the freeway thought they missed the court date.
Yeah.
Alrighty then.
Thank
you so much.
Okay, let's do updates on vaccine incentive strategy.
So Liz, can you tell us where you're at or what you know as far as the state?
Yes, so we received the DAS contract and signed it. So it should be, the money should be coming shortly. I don't know the exact timing, but pretty soon. My understanding is NCPHD has their equity plan submitted. So let me back up for those in the audience who don't know what we're talking about. The state is providing Gilliam County with about $110,000 to incentivize vaccination within the county. It can be used for anything to get people shots in arms. And it's coming in 2 tranches. So the first tranche will be about $55,000. The second one is contingent on us having an equity plan submitted to Oregon Health Authority for how to close the gaps for sort of hard to reach populations. My understanding is that NCPHD has put that together and submitted it. So we should be eligible for the full enchilada. I had a call with Leah Horner, who is the governor's sort of point person for counties about a week or so ago now. And several of the other counties from our region were on it. One of the things that we are exploring and sort of what I would like to propose to the court, because staff has kind of talked about this internally, is the governor's office is talking to Oregon Lottery and the college savings plan to see if for counties who would like to do big prizes like $10,000, if the Oregon Lottery would do that drawing for us so that we don't administratively have to collect everybody's personal vaccination information, worry about the integrity of polling the right name and who polls it and all that kind of stuff. And so Leah is exploring that right now with the lottery, but there have been multiple counties that have requested that. And so yesterday, Teresa and Chris Fitz and I sat down to just kind of think through, like, how should we maybe look at spending the $110,000? And what I would like to propose, what we kind of came down is for administrative purposes to keep it as simple as possible. If Oregon Lottery is able to help us do the drawing, we were thinking it might be worthwhile to do basically 10 $10,000 prizes that are drawn weekly between early July and fair. And then the remaining 10,000 would go to a college scholarship for somebody. This is all obviously predicated on lottery being able to do this for us. But then the college scholarship we would go ahead and announce during fair. And so we would look at probably drawing like every Wednesday, depending on when lottery says they can do it. And then my hope is that as people hear about winners in the community, those who are kind of sitting on the fence might be encouraged to go get their shot. And then that way we don't have to deal with trying to figure out if this vaccination card is legit or not and getting into people's personal health stuff. This way OHA has the list of names. They hand that over to lottery. Lottery does the drawing and just sends the names to us. And then we would figure out with the state. Some of the counties talked about turning their funds back to the states. The state lottery would actually cut the check. And some of the counties, I think, are holding it and just asking for the names. So we would need to just work out the logistics of whether it's us cutting the check and whether that makes sense. Because then, not that it's a big deal, but Ellen would have to issue tax documents to those winners, or whether lottery can just do it and it makes sense for them to do it. So we're still working out all of those things, but that is what I would like to propose for the court's consideration. Thoughts on it?
I did kind of like the side-by-side deal.
That Sherman County's doing.
Well,
not
I just think that there's probably in our area some interest for some people for those things, but that would be difficult to do.
They can go buy one if they win the 10,000.
Well, probably not, because it's going to get taxed.
And they probably cost more than that.
They just hope that them and their spouse both win, and then they can pool their money.
They will get the lottery. I'm sure will pull taxes out before they pay.
Leah.
On the issue of whether or not to have lottery issue payment versus the county issuing payment, I feel, and this is just my personal opinion, I feel like since this is a program that you all are implementing, that it would be better to come from here than lottery. I feel like that takes us out of.
Okay.
Sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how I feel about it. I think it feel better to get a check from.
Maybe that's part of why I like
Yeah.
the side by side too. It's kind of like,
It feels more personal.
Yeah.
No?
And I think we probably could do that.
it
I don't-
really wouldn't be that big a deal other than how would we get the vaccine information to, I mean, could lottery do the drawing and then we issue it?
That's exactly what we would do. So we would, I think the way other counties are asking to is basically we would, and I'm hoping they're going to say, yes, they can draw once a week. That's going to be the sticking point, I think, to see if they're willing to do that. So they may come back and say, no, we'll draw once a month or something. We may have to just adjust it slightly. But the idea would be, because OHA has access to the big state database that has everybody's name that's been vaccinated in it. And so I think how that's working is OHA is providing that data to lottery, who then randomly draws. At least this is how it's happening on the state level. And so I think what we would just be asking is lottery would do the drawing for us and send us a name, and then we would announce the winner, cut the check, and we would do all the promotion in terms of telling people, you know, go get your vaccination, basically, so that you have a shot at literally have a shot at getting the 10,000 sort of prize.
I like it. And I agree. I think it's better if we here, if we're trying to get our residents, how can we be involved in that?
Yeah. And I know because staff kicked it around a little bit during the all staff meeting, and one of the concerns was, one, just the responsibility of keeping track of all of that. But two, I mean, it's still, even though it's not subject, vaccination records are not subject to HIPAA law, so technically we can ask and know that information. It still feels a little weird for staff to have to ask if people are vaccinated, and people may not want everybody in the community knowing whether they are or not. So this way their information is just,
Yeah, so there's a privacy act.
yeah. So if we're okay with this, I will continue to work with Leah in the governor's office to try to nail down the details of how this would look. And if you guys are okay with me just running with it, with this general kind of concept of $10,000 like prizes plus one college scholarship. And the college scholarship, I think, so that we can do, I think we would be able to do 12 through 17.
I was gonna ask what the age range.
And that it would likely live in an Oregon College Savings Plan account that then that person could access. I think that's how they're actually, because there's some laws about certain ages can't receive lottery prizes kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
So there's some legal things that I think we would have to just kind of work through. But as the state is doing it, I think we could probably.
There's going to be some rules that get ignored.
Possibly, but my hunch is that the governor's office is having the Department of Justice look at their plan, and so as long as we're mimicking what they're doing, I think we're probably
things that
fine.
normally would be, you can't do that, are going to be allowed under this. So I had an email from, and I think you're on it too, from Martha McKinnis in North Central about the Saturday deal.
Yes.
So, and then Friday email went out, thank those folks who were way already, we're going to want to be sure we get everyone who wants to be part of the event involved, and then they have some businesses. Was that part of a, like a bite out of COVID deal that's separate?
It's separate, yeah. So Chris Fitz has been working with North Central Public Health to do to get them to show up to some community events that we're already having. And so I think she called MARTA to see if there's anything in Arlington upcoming, and we just missed the fishing derby. So I think the hope is that maybe they'll come out for like the car show later this summer. But Condon is having an artisans market on Friday.
Oh, okay.
Saturday.
That's
right here.
And so they were going to just come and set up a table near the beer garden and do their $10 bite out of COVID. And the Condon Chamber is helping to coordinate all of that to see. And they'll just set up the van across from the park and bring Johnson & Johnson shots for folks that want to get them. But Chris will continue. And if you guys in Arlington know of events that might be a good fit, she's just connecting people basically. So looking for anything that there's going to be a
Kind of
gathering.
interesting when they did the vaccinations the other day, they didn't get a great turnout, but we got 36 people vaccinated.
Yeah,
There was only
That's
9
good.
here. More interest down there than there is on this end.
yeah. I was
That's
one of the
36
9.
More, that's good.
I was one of the 9.
Yay,
They
good for you.
stopped by my office because I was on a fridge till in it fall.
That's the first time you just got yours?
I just got mine,
Did you
yeah.
get the J&J?
I got the Pfizer
Pfizer?
because they were at the schools and so they had the
That
Pfizer
would be
for
my
I
them.
brought some
question.
J&J to Arlington, and some of my employees got J&J.
What if you don't want a J&J but you would take a shot, but you wanted Pfizer?
I think you can request that from North Central.
Yeah.
They'll facilitate it.
So
one way
you
or another.
wouldn't, yeah.
And so
So for
folks
those people
know,
that are going to these events, may have to make that.
And I also think he probably got Moderna, but I don't know that there might be Pfizer at Murray's up here.
Murray's has Moderna.
Moderna.
And they have, I think, about 200 shots right now, Chris was saying. And so if folks are interested in Moderna. They, and I think the rules have kind of, because we now have kind of an oversupply of vaccines, thank you. I think the latest that I heard is that they are breaking
They are.
vials even without having all 10 people lined up. So if they get 2 or 3, they're willing to break a vial to get shots in them. So for those listening at home, if you haven't got your shot yet, North Central Public Health will be in Condon this weekend during the Artisans Market. And if you want to get a Johnson & Johnson shot, you can also, if you want Moderna, call Murray's in Condon. Or I think the NCPHD is doing some walk-in appointments in the Dalles if you happen to be down there running errands. And then we are working on finding some community events in Arlington where they can come and bring Johnson & Johnson and maybe Moderna, whatever else they can bring. So questions on that? All right. Let's go into 7.4, discuss community grant writing support. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to get this out there because I keep running into it every place I go, and there's obviously possibility that there's going to be available funding out there for lots of different entities in Gilliam County. And the thing I continue to hear is I'm not a grant writer. I don't know how to write grants. I don't know how to find the money. Yeah, and I'm wondering if we could talk about facilitating something that would help these entities have a place to go. It can still be at their expense because they could pay for the grant writing out of whatever, but what could we do to get a central place that they can request assistance for, you know, trying to find the funding and access it and get a grant writer. I know of a couple possible grant writers that I'm sure would do that, but we need to figure out. I would like to see the county help the entities. All the money comes here if we can get it here. If we got anybody sitting on their hands, shame on us.
So what if we, as you were talking, one of the ideas that kind of popped into my head is, what if we looked at scheduling see if we could get together some of those folks who are really good at grant writing to put together maybe a little workshop on, and that would allow our local entities to, one, make contact with existing grant writers, but also I wonder if some of those grant writers could maybe give some tips to people on, you know, if you're in the education space kind of thing, here are some things you should be looking for, or what makes a good grant application. I mean, just some of those basic kinds of things, but so that if people just really need kind of some technical questions answered, they could do that. Or if they want to employ the people that are presenting, they could do that too, kind of thing. I don't know how we would feel about maybe facilitating something like that.
I mean, I don't have any answers. I just know that it's really problematic, and you have people are afraid of the process.
Yeah.
You know, they struggle with the process and wasting a bunch of time and getting turned down and, you know, not knowing what they're doing and not knowing what's available. And, you know, it's confusing for all of us what's actually going to be available at this point. But there, you know, there's lots of buckets that look like there's going to be money in it. How do we, what can we do to help facilitate the process for, to get as much money into Gilliam County as we can, because it helps us all if that happens.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Folks in the audience on Zoom, what do you guys think about that sort of question for those of you who
Catherine, you
have
ought to have some input on that.
organizations? Catherine, what do you think?
Sorry, I was talking pool. I'm on pool thing. So about grant writing, refresh me, sorry.
So we were talking about how the county can help for local organizations that are maybe feeling overwhelmed by the prospect of chasing grant dollars. How the county can be a facilitator, resource, etc., to help connect communities, organizations with either grant writers
Or the funding, access to the funding, either, both is part of the package, is how,
Finding.
they don't even know where to go get funding or how to access it. And, my fear is that we end up with a lot of money that come into Gilliam County. We're sitting on our hands and don't know how to go out and get it. And we don't get it here.
I think a lot of it is knowing if you are actually, if you can apply. So, I mean, there's a lot of grants that come through the cities and probably the county that it would be nice to have someone kind of a clearinghouse of grants is what I would think. And especially for the nonprofits, because some of them you're sitting there with ODOT grants and it's for specific purposes. And it's not a purpose that you need at that time. Like one is a planning grant that comes out every year, every other year. And it's up to your code and things like that, or a transportation system plan. And I'm thinking with nonprofits too, there's a bunch that may come down that may cross your desk, but you're ineligible due to what type of nonprofit you are and things like that. So a clearinghouse would be the best thing for someone to actually write the grants. That would be harder. I guess you could have in your clearinghouse maybe a list of several people that would be willing to write the grant for you.
That's what I would think too. I know like when we were on the Fazio Town Hall the other day, they were talking about, for instance, broadband to rural areas that had entities set up that were co-ops and those kind of things. And, so, running all that detail down and make, we got places we could sure use the money to improve life in Gilliam County. Let's not let it get away.
Yeah, and another thing too, Pat, to that point is I think another thing would be good to be able to have a spot in your clearinghouse to say, hey, this is a good project that you could partner with, maybe both the health clinics or both the cities, or put in some sort of regional plan instead of trying to go on your own. Because some of these RUS grants, what I have found are, and even some of the ODOTs are so competitive that if you go it alone, you're not going to have much success. And back to ODOT grants too, is it really helps to have representation on that local act. So we do have, I believe, I'm not sure is Pat on the act now, the Area Commission of Transportation. It's nice, and Gibb is our representative for the cities in Gilliam County. And it is so good to have a face at the table. And they have to come and explain their reasoning of why they're going to skip over you again. So I think part of that too is just being involved in some of the organizations that are handing out the grants.
Anybody else in the audience want to weigh in on some ideas or maybe think about it, how this might look?
I don't necessarily think we need to make a decision on anything, but
Yeah.
we sure need to, I'd sure like to get something in the process that we're working towards that would.
And on it, and maybe this is a good sort of segue or call out, is for folks who are in the community who have a big idea, a project that they would like to get done. We're by no means the experts, but we know people. So we're happy to try to problem solve with you and provide some capacity in that realm of, I mean, I don't know all the state grants that are available, but I sure know people who can get ODOT to the table or explain what an application should look like, or when it's due, or whether you're eligible. And so I guess maybe as a place to start is for folks who are thinking about some cool ideas and wondering where to start, is please reach out to one of us here at the table, and we'll try to put Gilliam County resources behind at least getting you connected to who knows, who may have funding available for a project.
I
But
think
do-
another, oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead, Catherine.
I think another part that's been really important that I think we've missed out on too is regional strategies. And Nate Stice has been really, really good, but we're kind of on the line between two different, we're actually in the east side, but we have Nate, the Columbia Gorge, helping us with it. I think some of the streamlining of finally getting us with the right people too. And again, it's sitting on the board and having them look at you and see what's going on. A lot of the state grants, Park and Rec is a really important thing too. And that it helps to know the county court and have letters of, support and things like that along there too. So use your connections, I guess, is the best thing. My only success has come from act of basically being at the table. And they may look at you for 3 or 4 years, but pretty soon you may get a grant. And so I think just having someone on those and knowing somebody is very helpful.
Sort of related to that, Commissioners, to Catherine's point on the regional solutions. One of the things that I would like to work on or bring back to talk to you guys about is moving development districts. So we are currently with GEODC, and Sherman County's over with McKed in the Dalles. One of the things the governor's regional solutions regions line up with those development districts. So we are with Courtney, who is wonderful, but has basically every county east of us. So she's got a huge and Nate is working with Sherman, Hood River, and Wasco. And he comes and tries to advocate for us, but we're sort of in this no man's land, where he technically is not our regional person. And so we don't get to get in his little pool for when funding comes.
Right.
Instead, we're competing against Umatilla and Morrow County, which is not advantageous for us to be
So I've
competing
got
against
a
them.
question, because Lisa is on that, or I don't know how you got on there, but you had me sit in for you the other day on the deal, and I want to stay involved in that, so I'm asking, I don't know how that happens, or who I need to contact to do that.
I can contact the organisers and ask them to add you to the circulation list.
Okay, because it was really interesting.
What is it?
And that's just exactly what you're talking about, it's the regional
What group is it?
economic development.
So it all came out of the regular monthly McKed economic resiliency team that kind of initiated when we went into the pandemic, and it was all pandemic focused initially, like how do we help businesses survive this? And then as we've gone through nearly 18 months of that, they decided, there's an ongoing need. So they've set up this, I think, bi-monthly at the moment, sessions that progressively walk you through some of these attributes that are helpful to businesses.
Yeah.
So there was one particularly around, economic growth, and I couldn't attend. And so knowing that Pat had an interest, I sent it over to him and said, hey, if you're available, take my spot.
It was real interesting because there was a lot of discussion from the different communities and what their needs and what, Arlington, for instance, a lot of 84 discussion. Arlington's so much different than anybody else, and it was surprising to them to know, some of the differences and some of the things that are good for our area and some of the things that are real struggles. And the common thread to all of it was nobody's got any housing.
Mm-hmm.
Workforce
Yes.
sucks. There's not much workforce.
Yeah.
There was this whole pattern, even though all the communities are so different, so.
Was that a MCED or a Regional Solutions?
Yeah.
It started McCad, but obviously our regional solutions team are at the table as well. So we'd
But
like to-
Nate
to
was on it.
retain.
Yeah, MCED is Mid-Columbia Economic Development District for those.
Is
who are
that
like,
what
"What's
your
MCED?"
suggestion was, that we try to get tied up more with them?
My suggestion is that we lobby GEODC to release us from their region and move into MCED's district, which would then allow the Regional Solutions region, the governor's office, to be closer to us, because Courtney's out of Baker.
Right. I think that's a
And-
really good idea.
Mhm. Yeah, makes more sense.
Okay,
I don't know how
Especially
long Nate's
since we-
gonna be around, but
Especially since
Yeah.
we partner with Sherman, Wasco, and Hood River in so many other ways.
the partnership is definitely more to that direction than towards the east. Well, Catherine happens to be on that board, and so she and I can work on getting us out of GEODC. I think I can have a discussion with Susan Christensen and a discussion with Jessica Mehta, who runs MCED. And see.
So one thing we did learn is we have to, and we started this process probably 8 years ago, and the city approved moving out, and I think it just kind of stalled. But one of the big key factors is we need to make sure MCED will take Gilliam County. So I would like to have some conversation as a GEODC board member with MCED to make sure we have a place to go before we get out of the other one. But sitting on the GEODC board, there is some frustration with how large the area is. And so it stretches all the way to the Nevada border. It includes Malheur, Harney, Grant, Union, or not Union, Umatilla, Morrow, Gilliam, and Wheeler. And I keep pushing to get some of the money this direction, and it's an uphill battle. And it's not necessarily GEODC's total fault on this. It's just that they have such bigger communities that seem to take up a lot of the project money. So, and a lot of it was COVID money, and kept trying to get it pushed this direction. And I don't think we had a lot of takers on it. But I would just hope that we can have a discussion with MCED. And I do have a board meeting next Tuesday. So, and they've asked for it to be in person. So I'm going to go to Pendleton to see what's going on. So
how do we go
it
about
would be
having-
nice to know at that point to possibly propose it, because I think they have to approve voting Gilliam County out, and MCED has to approve accepting us.
So I think the first conversation, because Pat just asked how would we go about that, I think the first conversation is with Jessica Mehta, who's running MCED. And we probably don't want to put her on the spot in a county court meeting. So I would suggest that one of us have that discussion with her. I'm happy to I actually know her from my tourism days before I came to the court. She and I worked together. So I'm happy to kind of reach out to her and see who her board members are, number one, because some of them are county commissioners who may be friends of ours that we could also lobby to vote us in. I think Joe DeBolskus is probably one of the board members. And I'm guessing, I think maybe Steve Kramer might be one of them, and a Hood River commissioner who, I don't know which one it is, but
less.
I think it may be less, yeah. So we may have some friends that we can, once we kind of take her temperature, I don't want to go above her head, but then maybe we could reach out to some of the commissioners that are on the board and just see if they would be open to that.
Go for it.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
I will do
please.
that. Catherine, I'm going to set up a meeting with Jessica.
I think she had someone from the office.
She looked like she was
Yeah.
pointing.
She had people.
I will set that up. I am going to write a note at the top here, Jessica. Okay. Is there anything else related to the grants discussion? We kind of got off on a little tangent there. Yeah.
Yes, please.
From time to time, we're aware of grants that are out there that can be very helpful. But when you start reading the qualifications, would it be the word excluded? we hear about these very large companies that get these
Mhm.
hundreds of millions of dollars to do. We'd be satisfied with just a sliver of that. And I'm not sure why that isn't possible. And I guess I'm looking at my politicians and saying, it isn't set up for us to succeed. But
I think especially the fiber broadband stuff that I've looked at, and so that you know, we had the federal delegation here, some of our congressional folks who actually write those rules, and I was, I think, very blunt with them in that if Congress is serious about us deploying fiber, they have got to update their rules to actually meet communities who are trying to do the right thing instead of basically the large companies who have grant writers on staff and know how to access those funds, and the rest of us are trying to read statute that is like telling us to go to this and then jump to this to see if we, and you spend 3 hours trying to figure out if you even qualify to apply. And then you have to actually do the application, which usually requires you to hire a consultant for more than what you actually need.
More than the grant is.
Yeah.
And it's difficult for us to accept that, because we always hear about all these grants, how important broadband is, and everyone out there. Yeah, we're trying to do that, but that money would sure help.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Your frustration is shared.
Yes, definitely. We feel that as a small county as well, because we get overlooked, just like we were talking about. Those bigger counties are getting all the info and nobody cares about.
How is that, since they keep banging the drum that rural America is so important? I don't believe them anymore. Sorry.
They're just words.
Was that on the record? Sorry.
They're just words.
Anything else on the grant piece?
Thanks for the discussion.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing the
And
discussion.
for folks who are listening, if you have ideas on how we can be helpful, we don't know all the answers. So come to us with your good ideas. Or if you have a project that you would like us to get behind and try to help find resources for, please call us. Any of the three of us are happy to try to put it and get the county's resources behind it to help make it happen.
Or if you're interested in being a part of what Catherine was discussing is the clearinghouse, that would help these entities. If you have that expertise to put that together, that would be great too.
Yeah. Okay. We'll continue to figure out how we're going to do this, I think. For 7.5, consider approval of revised 2021-2026 Gilliam County Strategic Plan. Okay, so to recap, we had a work session on May 19th to do some revisions to the strategic plan. And I did my best to try to capture what we had discussed. So I just put some draft language in. There were 3 edits that I made specifically. So under goal 2, which is to promote growth and prosperity throughout all of Gilliam County, I added a bullet point 4, which is to develop a comprehensive economic development and enhancement plan to retain existing businesses, recruit new businesses, and encourage entrepreneurship. Did I capture it? Did I miss something? Are there
No,
edits?
I think it's there. It's a matter of doing that.
Yeah,
Yes.
we just need to do it.
And
right?
to reiterate, for those who are looking at this and saying, this is kind of light, what we discussed during the work session was that the intention then, once we set this big picture vision, is to actually come in and develop that plan. So when you go to the website, you'll be able to see the big vision picture and then click on a link and it will take you to the more detailed, okay, this is how we're actually going to do this.
I thought it was interesting because you had referred to the Umatilla County Strategic Plan, which I reached out to Dan Dorn and got a copy of that, which is less than this.
Yep,
Yes, it is.
it is.
So this is better than that. And I like the idea of settling down and just those critical areas we can add to it later and build it as we go, but really doing some work and some specifics underneath it is a good idea.
So under goal 3, which is manage the budget to ensure consistent, sustainable programs and services, I added a bullet point 4, which is to adopt and review annually a 10-year county road plan to plan for and guide future investments in the county road system. And I figured the review can happen in concert with the budget is probably when we're going to be looking at that anyway. And so that was sort of a natural time to be looking at the road plan and updating it. And then I added a bullet point 5, which is to adopt a 20-year comprehensive county facilities plan to plan for and guide future investments in significant maintenance projects and construction of county-owned facilities.
Yep.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Definitely what we discussed.
Okay. So any edits or things, other changes we want to make? Or does that look good?
I think
We'll roll with it now, huh?
that's good for now. And we'll ready to see something that we need
Start
to do
working
to
on
it,
those
yeah.
things.
Okay, could I get a motion to approve it then?
I move to approve the,
Revised.
yeah.
It's right here.
Oh, thank you. I move to approve the revised 2021 through 2026 Gilliam County Strategic Plan as presented.
Second.
It's been moved in, seconded that we approve the revised 2021-2026 Gilliam County Strategic Plan as presented. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to new business.
So could we take a quick recess?
Of course.
For us kids.
I've had
Sorry,
coffee
Waste
too.
Management.
I'm happy to. I'm happy to. So we are going to take a 5-minute recess.
Not have to be in the office.
It's 5 minutes long enough.
That's more than enough.
Okay, and then we will come back with Leah to give us a update from Waste Management. So we are back in session. It's 11:18, and we will go into Waste Management quarterly report. Leah.
Leah Shannon, I am with Chemical Waste Management, Columbia Ridge Landfill, both down at the Arlington landfill area. This is the first quarter report for 2021. I think everybody got a copy and you can kind of see the numbers. We've got volumes up at Columbia Ridge. Tonnage is actually even up at Chemical Waste Management for the first quarter. We have some big projects coming in with Chemical Waste Management too. We just approved a CAMU project that's coming from the Fiscal landfill that will be coming in. So that would be some good tonnages for them. We are also working on our EPLS project, which is drum-based projects. So we're looking at some different things to up that tonnage over there.
Leah, could you define CAMU for those that aren't familiar?
Yes, CAMU is a corrective action management unit. So what that is through 40 CFR, the federal regulations. A really good example is the old pot liner or aluminum plant in the Dalles. So the aluminum plant in the Dalles creates a waste stream called pot liner, which is a KO88 federally regulated waste stream, which has to meet land disposal restrictions prior to being landfilled in a hazardous waste landfill. So the state will allow the company to make a pile of this pot line over here on company property and allow them to leave it in place. If at some point it's decided that it really would be better suited to be in a Subtitle C landfill, federally we have to ask for it, and state we have to ask for it to allow it, because it was allowed to sit here without meeting land disposal restrictions. We're going to put it directly into the landfill without treating it to land disposal restrictions. So it's you're skipping a process with it. You're making it easier to dispose of, but you're actually moving it from a place where you don't have a lot of protection into a place where you do have protection. So it's a much more environmentally sound way to manage it. So it's a process. We've been working on the Pasco landfill CAMU project for over a year, and we just finally got approval on it. So it's just sort of a mechanism. If you think about the aluminum plant in the Dalles, here was this material that's piled right here by the Columbia River, you know, not a great place. And so now you could move that into a hazardous waste landfill, permitted as a subtitle C, and construct it properly to manage that waste. So that's kind of how that works. It's the sort of, it's the mechanism to promote getting these projects done because it makes it more economical and more feasible. So it's just, it gets those things cleaned up. It's a mechanism.
Thank you.
So you're welcome. 100 days of summer, we are moving into our 100 days of summer where we really focus on safety. I mean, we focus on safety every day, but this is always during 100 days of summer. We have a road focus. A lot of it is heat related. We are bringing in this industrial athlete group called ADAPT. We've actually brought them in a couple other times, and we've learned some stretching exercises and things that the guys do in the morning for people who are running heavy equipment, who are working on the rail, working in DTARP, stretching, trying to help with reducing the amount of these types of injuries that are created from some of the jobs that we do. We're seeing good results with it. We're using it, really where they use it is with the hauling companies, because those guys are on the back of those garbage trucks and they're in and out and up and down and lifting and moving. And so we really started the program there, and now we're kind of moving it into the landfill. And so it's giving us some good results. Let's see, we had one pulled muscle at Columbia Ridge, and we had some stitches in a knee. We're still looking to hire. I know everybody is. Oh my gosh, everywhere you go, there are help wanted signs, trying to get people on board. It's a struggle right now for everybody.
Leah, on that, is it a lack of applicants or a lack of qualified people or all of the above, people not able to pass tests to do it, drug tests and things, or?
So we will get a significant amount of applicants, say, for a driver's position. And we will either get a background glitch or we will get a drug test failed. It's almost like they already know, but they need to keep applying for jobs, you know.
Got it.
It's just that, it's just the place that we're in right now, you know. There's a number of things. And then sometimes we'll have open positions and we don't get anything. So we're reaching out to Atkinson staffing, temporary workers to try to fill, especially the labor positions, because we're just not getting anything. But when we do get applicants, it's really interesting because we are getting them from out of state. A lot of them are coming from out of state. We just hired a guy from Canada, another kid that came in from Florida. So it's like we've, I don't know, kind of tapped it here. It's really hard right now. I think every employer is experiencing the same problem. And with that thought in mind, on the second page of this, we were talking about community involvement. And this next school year, we're going to do a career day. We're going to bring in probably juniors and seniors from the high schools and give them some tours, give them some talks from people within different positions, different places on the landfill, and see if we can't promote some of these kids maybe going to trade schools, coming back to waste management, because we have good paying jobs, we have good benefits. Let's keep them in the county, you know, keep this going.
Does waste management still have the tuition reimbursement?
They do have a tuition reimbursement program, yes.
I'm wondering for like because I'm just noticing like the welder in particular position. Did Columbia Gorge, did they say that that's one of their programs? So that might be a good connection for us to help you make with Dan Spatz, to see if maybe we could bridge that.
And maybe some intern programs, things like that we could work out.
Well, even the administrative as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. try to put some intern type projects in place, programs. At chemical waste management, I think it's the same way at Columbia Ridge. You have to be 18. But if you're a senior, first year college, you're gonna be there anyways.
Yeah.
So but I think one of the things we really need to do is just educate the county and the people in the county, because I think there's a lot of not knowing. They don't know, they haven't been there, they don't see the jobs that we have. They don't see what we do. And maybe we can bridge some of that by educating these kids. You know, we did the Kids Day with the train thing for the younger kids. They really enjoyed that. They thought that was great.
I liked the picture.
Yeah. We had some interesting questions. They're very interesting. One of the questions, one little girl asked, she was probably 4th or 5th grader. You see the picture of the engine there. And we were talking about, I was trying to explain to them how many tons of garbage came in on the train and how long, you know, how all of these tons, and I correlated it to filling the gymnasium where they play basketball 2 times full every day. And she's standing there looking at the engine, and she's like, we get it all in there.
Okay, no,
Okay.
that is
So we're
quite
gonna go to the rail yard and explain that. So there were some really good moments that the kids, they have good questions. It was actually a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to doing it again.
Because they see that train go through town every day, but they don't know what's on.
They don't know what's on it. They don't know where it's going. They don't know, you know, they just so much not knowing. And we just would really like to. I think sometimes you can educate the adults through the kids. Sometimes they go
Yeah.
home,
Right.
you know. Construction projects. We just started excavating for our 3rd leachate impoundment over at Columbia Ridge. They started that yesterday, so that's beginning. We extended out our litter fence, and that has been completed. But I have to say that this spring has been exceptional.
I was gonna say, is that working?
Oh my gosh, the wind that we have had, it has been very challenging. We do have an Atkinson's group in there now doing litter, and they are amazing. There's a lot of it within the boundaries even that we have to, out of the stormwater ditches and everything that we have to keep clear. And they do a really good job, so that is ongoing. We are putting some enhanced security systems in at both Columbia Ridge and Chemical Waste Management. It's going to be a lot of cameras and a lot of communications and things we'll be installing. We're in the midst of doing that right now.
You've been working on that for 10 years
I know, and it's finally going somewhere.
or more.
Yeah, finally, we're getting off the ground with it. Chem waste, the Part B renewal is of course ongoing. I don't know that I'll live long enough to see that finished up, but we're working on it. We kind of put it on hold because we are in the midst of this Class 3 permit modification. Those draft permit mods have been submitted to DEQ. Within that permit mod, we had to touch, I think it was 10 of the standalone documents that are attached to the permit language. We've submitted drafts to DEQ. DEQ sent us back their comments last Friday. So now we'll go through their comments. We have a meeting with DEQ next Monday to sit down and talk about the comments. Then we will create the final documents and do the formal submittal. And then that's when we will go into public comment, where the public will be able to attend the meetings and do public comment on that. We have almost completed the installation of the portal monitoring system for the radioactive material. That is to the point, all the concrete will be finished up today, and then we will start hooking up all of the comms. So there will be communication between the gate and where the trucks will arrive to pull through the portal monitor, which it's a big deal like this. The truck will drive between it. The radiation measuring lead line instruments on either side. there will be a TV in the scale house. They'll be able to see the truck proceeding through it. They will get alarms for anything that is greater than 2 times our background. And then we will follow our procedure that's been set forth with DOE on our corrective action on how we manage that. So we are very close to getting that. Of course, we've been doing this procedure using handheld instruments since day one of this whole thing. So it's been very interesting. I have learned very much about radioactive material.
More than you wanted to
Did
know.
not know. So I think the project is supposed to be completed by the end of next week, but I don't know if they're going to get all that comm stuff put together. Depending on that, how it goes too. Cell 4C, the liner is in. We are just waiting on CQA from the consultant, and then we will submit that to DEQ. Once DEQ gives us approval, then we'll be able to start putting waste in that area. It's a 1 acre cell. Just kind of ties everything together. I am working with Michelle on rezoning an additional about 460 acres to general industry. That has come about from the permit law. So when we first started the permit law, remember we were going to cite that as a subtitle D municipal type landfill. So a subtitle D landfill is allowed use on an EFU with conditional use permit, be just like Columbia Ridge. But in the midst of that, DEQ decided they wanted to cite it as a hazardous wasteland. So that changed up a number of things. Within that is the zoning. So we will have to look at rezoning that. And so Michelle and I have met, and we kind of have a plan on how to do the submittal, how to walk through this. So we sort of started that process already. So you'll probably see more on that coming. Right. The SB 246 got approved, and we are excited to have really good clarified rules, working with DOE on all of that. All that's going very well. So we're all good with that. And of course, we talked about the community events and things with the switch engine and setting up a career day and doing some of those things. I have the chamber checks are in motion within the system for 12 of chambers, also scholarships. And there's something else too. It's running through that approval process that we're still moving. And then of course we'll be involved with therapy. So all of that stuff is on that.
Questions for Leah?
I think so. Very thorough.
You guys are busy.
We are very busy.
Lots going on out there.
Yes, we are. Yes, and I would encourage anybody to come and do a tour, see the facility. The more knowledgeable we all are as a community, the better we are.
Yes.
We understand it. Better we work together. So.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you.
so much.
Okay, commissioners, let's move on to 8.2. Consider approval of modification to Arlington Lions Club fiscal year 2020-2021 capital investment grant agreement. So we're going to have 3 of these in quick succession. These are all 3 of these.
All delays.
There's some COVID delays for 8.4, the school districts. They want to do them obviously over the summer holidays, and so that brings them into the new fiscal year. And so basically for all 3 of these, we're just looking for motions that allow me to adjust the time frame that they can spend the money to allow them that little bit of extra time with some of the delays that everybody experienced with COVID. So the first one up is the Arlington Lions Club for they received a capital investment grant to construct a new building with a restroom and lighting at the Arlington gun range. And of course, it's fallen behind because contractors and building supplies are hard to come by right now. So they are looking for an extension to the end of the year, December 31st, 2021.
I went up yesterday, walked through what they've done. They're working.
Yeah.
It's getting there.
And
It'll
so,
be nice.
so you know, Pat, because this will be the first time we've kind of done these, is each of the grant recipients gets an agreement, and that I was authorized to basically execute. And so I'm just looking for motions to be able to revise those and
What
send
does
out
the FY stand for?
fiscal year.
Oh. Should have known that. I move to amend the FY 2020 through 2021 capital investment grant award to Arlington Lions Club, allowing the grant period to be extended until December 31st, 2021. And to authorize the county judge to prepare and execute amended grant agreement reflecting the same.
And I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we amend the fiscal year 2020-2021 capital investment grant award to the Arlington Lions Club, allowing the grant period to be extended until December 31st, 2021, and to authorize the county judge to prepare and execute an amended grant agreement reflecting the same. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. 8.3, this is for Arlington Education Foundation. They received a special projects grant to improve the organization's digital presence. And Brad Anderson had actually called and just said because of COVID, they hadn't been meeting and working on it. And so they were asking for a 1-year extension to be able to do that work.
My turn.
Your turn.
I move to amend the fiscal year 2020-2021 special projects grant award to the Arlington Education Foundation, allowing the grant period to be extended until June 30th, 2022, and to authorize the county judge to prepare and execute an amended grant agreement reflecting the same.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we amend the fiscal year 2020-2021 special projects grant award to the Arlington Education Foundation, allowing the grant period to be extended until June 30th, 2022, to authorize the county judge to prepare and execute an amended grant agreement reflecting the same. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, and then we've got the Condon School District, and this is for some various repairs and upgrades that they're making to the high school building, and their hope is that their contractor will be in over the summer, and so obviously that spans 2 fiscal years, and so they are just asking for an extension to December 31st.
I move to amend the FY 2020 through 2021 capital investment grant award to the Condon School District, allowing the grant period to be extended until December 31st of 2021, and to authorize the county judge to prepare and execute an amended grant agreement reflecting the same.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we amend the fiscal year 2020-2021 capital investment grant award to the Condon School District, allowing the grant period to be extended until December 31st, 2021, and to authorize the county judge to prepare and execute an amended grant agreement reflecting the same. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on. 8.5, consider Arlington TV Cooperative request for delay of loan repayment. Hi, guys.
Aye.
Let's see. We might need some additional chairs if we could. How many of you guys want to sit up here? 3 of you?
I'll walk. Motion creates motion.
2, 3.
I'm sure we're gonna have
John's
questions
coming.
for you,
John,
John,
you need to
so
come.
you better come up here.
That's-
Yeah, that's plenty.
I think we got 3.
That covers them. Okay. Mary's moral support.
Mary's on the right along.
Mary's like, this is not my
She's
deal.
just happy to be out.
Oh.
So while we're getting seated, I'll just sort of kick this off to say that we received a letter from Arlington TV Co-op in late May requesting a delay in their loan payment, which is coming up here for additional year, because we're still shy of being able to make the money work. This is something that we've done the past 2 years. Is basically we've just modified the promissory note and yes, so we've already done it twice. I'm just kind of providing that context. And I will kind of turn it over to you guys then.
I think it's self-explanatory that, you know, we're asking for an extension. You know, unfortunately, there just aren't the customers that are available right there in Arlington. You know, we have a number of customers that, what is the number? I think it's 183 plus 9 phone customers. 2 of your customers are sitting at your table. How's your service?
Great.
Fast enough for you?
Yes.
Okay. Pat?
The same day.
You knew that would be our answer.
I did. I had time.
That's a pretty dicey
Hey,
thing to
hey.
say in a public meeting.
I have ×3.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. The next thing is, I hope your sister's internet is improving, because I heard from the fiber notes that it's difficult.
Yes.
Yeah. And so did Commissioner or Councilperson Rattray. I didn't want to try it. And she's got some grandkids, I think, that are having the same issue. This is a real issue in Gilliam County. And looking at the notes from the Fiber Council, oh my gosh, it really is. And you know, we feel the same. You know, with the focus that the federal government puts on it and the state, oh my gosh, fiber and high-speed internet getting out to the rural areas and the counties, really important to everybody. Arlington TV Co-op is an organic, in-county, all of our employees are Gilliam County, all of our services are provided to Gilliam County. Starting in Arlington, we pushed out down south with down to the Wreckers with wireless service. We've got other sites planned so we can push further south. There just aren't the numbers in Arlington to meet, you know, what we would need to be more than break even or do more than break even. We have broken even. We made $714 profit and we spent over $2,000 on that radio site. You know, you suggested different ways. I don't recall whether it was in the county court setting or when you came to talk to us. You know, we talked about we had to make some hard decisions. We had to lay off our office person. And so John is doing everything. He's currently our only employee. He does get help from volunteers. And so he alone and our volunteers are putting in this high-speed quality fiber. And I mean, this is an asset that I don't think Gilliam wants to lose. You know, one of the options that you talked about was if we you know, decided that we couldn't continue to move forward, that we should consider selling to GorgeNet or some other service. And then you also made the comment that in retrospect is very disturbing, that you felt the court would be willing to forgive the loan to make Arlington TV Co-op more attractive to another company, an outside company, a company outside Gilliam County with employees outside Gilliam County, with people that don't pay Gilliam County taxes and that don't care about the employees of Gilliam County. Those of you that have had GorgeNet or had GorgeNet know that. Even if nobody wants to say it, it was horrible. You know, and that is frustrating. As somebody that lives in Gilliam County, I love internet. When I moved from Portland, one of the big frustrations I had was my internet speed was 5 when I got here. I ended up getting 2 accounts, spending almost $200 a month just to get 10, because I had kids that had Xboxes and stuff, not just mine. But that isn't necessary anymore. Granted, Gorgeous increased their speed because Arlington TV Co-op's there. Otherwise, why would they even increase their service? It's because there's competition. Arlington TV Co-op goes away and they do whatever the heck they want. And I find it frustrating and difficult to believe that the county court would even consider those options. This is something that is very special. You guys right now in Condon are dealing with home telephone, which I could read lots of notes about, home telephone and how they're trying to, work on this RFP and do all that other stuff. But Arlington TV Co-op really hasn't been involved in that. We're in your own community. I understand that we can't make this payment. I do. When Teresa wrote the comment, I think our numbers were what is it? Oh, the tower. Sorry. The payment is 32 grand, and we had 16,000 that we needed for operations for the rest of the year, and we do. If we make that payment, well, we'll be short, and Arlington TV Co-op closes. And it was frustrating. I understand, you're thinking, but it was frustrating to read in your staff analysis. It appears there's a pattern of non-payment. Well, of course there is, but that non-payment has always been after talking to the court. It's not like we're trying to be deadbeats and not paying. We are going out of our way trying to increase and improve internet service in your county. And I don't care, Arlington or Condon. I come from out of the area. Those don't matter to me. We started in Arlington because that's where it was, and we're moving south. We're moving out. And honestly, I am frustrated that the county, we feel from the county's point of view that we're a bad debt, that we'd rather sell to somebody from out of our area. I think you guys know people that have done business, that what would happen if an outside organization came in.
And to be clear, because I think you're referring to comments that I made, my comment was based on the idea that if the bank is going to repossess all of the assets that the county has invested, $750,000 into, that I would rather see, if the option is that you sell to somebody and we need to help you make the numbers work rather than the bank owning it, that was smarter for the public to control the destiny of where that public investment went, rather than to have a bank take it and sell it to whoever they wanted.
Yes.
And so that was my thought process. Not that you should be running out the door to go sell it today and that we would push you to do that with the loan, but that the alternative is that if the bank takes it over, not only do we lose the county investment, but we have no control over who takes it.
Yes.
And so that is my point. And I would still make that argument today, that if you are in danger of defaulting to the bank, we want to know about it, because I don't want to lose the county's investment. I would like to steer it someplace where if you're not able to manage the debt, that we figure out somebody who can take control of it that's still going to be community minded. And so that was my point. I appreciate you raising it so that I can clarify. The intent behind it is to not say that you're a bad debt or any of those things. It's it's the reality that we're in second position, and I don't want to lose the county's investment. And so the alternative is sometimes to say, okay, well, if you guys aren't going to be able to pay the bank, sometimes you proactively selling is a better option than defaulting to the bank and having the bank just fire sale it to whoever comes in.
And that's true. I believe sometimes that is. But I think this is an asset that, of all the options, we don't want to lose it. I mean, I'm just speaking as a county person now. We don't want to lose this. You just approved the new revised plan. Promote growth and prosperity through all Gilliam County. Work with internet service providers, local, state, and federal. Expand affordable, reliable, high-speed internet access to every residence and business in Gilliam County. Serve in a supportive, resourceful role to cities, schools, other taxing districts, and other organizations to help improve livability, develop comprehensive economic development by, internet's great for that. And then and pursue and optimize efficiency and effectiveness in services. That is Arlington TV Co-op.
Do you have a 5 to 10-year plan to say where you're going and where you want to go and what your foreseeable future is? What?
Our original plan, just like your original plan,
Mhm.
had to be revised, just
Okay,
like
sure.
every decent plan has to be revised.
Mhm.
And it was unrealistic. And I don't know, that was before my time, but I don't know if we had numbers that weren't reliable, if we didn't know what we didn't know, and so that didn't come up. You know, we had never dealt with internet really before. We hadn't dealt with fiber before. And so that original plan is kind of out the window. More recently, we've been more concerned about you guys not ordering us to shut down or saying, no, we want our money and there's no other option, or the bank taking us, you know.
I'd like to see a plan.
So
What's your plan? Where do you see yourselves
it
going?
gets down to, and I think it's pretty easy to get, it's gonna get down to what their overhead is and how many customers it takes to cover their overhead. But what my question is, when you bring up the bank into this, is there, from the board's perspective, some concern about the bank taking over TV, falling on a bank loan?
How are you making bank
Not
payments?
at this point. We're doing fine with making our payments to the bank. We haven't missed one.
So we're really
paid
not
on any.
talking about that, we're talking about the 36,000 that's here. And,
Yeah, we work with the county.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The county, you know, if you guys call that payment, then yeah, we have no
I
choice.
mean, my thought in it is, I understand what you're saying about the bank, but we shouldn't look like we're willing to facilitate the sale of it to somebody else to not make a $36,000 payment and, or, huh?
Don't raise it yet.
36
32.
$32,000
We'll take
payment,
30.
Don't make it more.
$32,000 payment that we're willing to forgive if they sell it. I don't want that to be the perception, because that's a really bad look. That we've got $3 million in the budget, that we just approved an $80 million budget with $3 million in there for fiber that we're hopefully going to get grants on for revenue source. And why can't this be part of that thought process is my question. And I guess I'm not sure what I'm missing here, just when I feel like I'm missing something why there isn't more support for what's going on with Arlington TV Co-op, in that they now have almost 200 customers, which I talked to Chet this morning, so I'm trying to figure out how does that equate to population? Households to population. About the closest I could get, there's 530 homestead prepaid. I don't know how many rentals there. Nobody seems to know how many rentals we got in Gilliam County, so I don't know how many rentals we get. So it's a number I can't reach. But even no matter how you look at it, almost 200 customers is a big percentage of providing really good internet to the residents of Gilliam County that's already there.
And to be clear, I don't think, I mean, I understand. I want to phrase this carefully. My impression listening to Dave, as you were talking, Dave, is that you think you don't have the support of the county board members. I'm saying we have already done this twice. I was not coming in thinking that I was going to call the loan. So the tone seems to be like, oh, the county's going to take it. That was not.
I think we get that from that.
That came from
Non-payment really hurts.
And I kind of got that from.
Yeah, I felt like I was reading a collection agency notice.
But what I am concerned about is I want to make sure, because we've been through this for a couple of years now, and you guys know, because I met with you multiple times, that I'm interested in making you guys succeed, but I also am a realist. So I also have to think about, if something goes haywire, what's the plan B? And so all of the discussions that we had primarily were me privately meeting with the board saying, hey, if the bank is about to call your loan, what's your plan B? Does the board have that? Yes. Does the board know? Because at the time we were discussing, they were not solvent, right? You guys were bleeding money every month. And so we were discussing this as if the money runs out, the county, the way that we have structured our support has come through more recently, our competitive grants. I didn't foresee there would be an appetite to just do cash infusions to keep you going. Like, you needed to have a plan. And so I wanted to set the context so that Pat understands that the conversations that we were having were primarily private. The intent was not to put them into a public forum, but so that the board was making sure that they were doing their due diligence to think about, okay, what happens if something goes haywire and we continue to bleed cash? How do we transition this to a place where the community asset that we're talking about, all these customers who are depending on you, don't just up and lose their internet because the bank repossesses it and sells it to somebody who's not interested in providing it. So with that being said, I want to know about your numbers, because previously when you've come here,
There's no numbers.
you've been bleeding cash, but it appears that you're showing a profit now. So tell me about that. Are you solvent? Aside from paying us, obviously, but
Aside
meeting
from-
all of your other
Aside from
bills.
paying you guys, we are solvent.
And are
Do you have a P&L statement? Do you have,
I don't have that with me.
okay, that's what I want to see. I want to see, I want to see your profit and loss. I
Can
want to
do
see
that.
your future plan. I want to know how you intend to get where you want to go. Because I want you to succeed more than anything. I had CenturyLink and the service wasn't bad, but it cost me a lot of money. I'm paying very little now. I'm willing to pay more if that's what we need to do. I mean, are your rates are they competitive enough? I mean, we don't want to run people off because I'm one of your biggest advocates. I'm out there saying, you know, have you hooked up to Arlington TV Co-op? I know one person that I've talked to about it. They don't have access. They're in the city limits, but they didn't have access. I think that was taken care of, but are we everywhere? And I want to see the numbers. I want to know what you're doing. You know, I'm willing to, you know, say, okay, you don't have the money now. We don't want you to fail, but I want to see the numbers. I want you to tell me where you're going and where you think you're going and how you're going to get there so that next year we're not doing this again.
So on the couple of things that I remember. Okay, so one, great news that you're solvent, it appears, at least at this point, to pay all your bills, except for the county's loans. One of the things I remember, if you guys can you remind me the terms that you have with the bank? How long, like, how many more years do you have on that loan?
I don't remember those numbers right now. And I know there's a big payment at the end.
That's one of my concerns,
Yeah.
is that there's a big balloon at the end. I'm just saying, like, I hope board members that you're figuring out when that balloon payment comes due, how you're going to make that work, because it was substantial, if I remember.
It was.
And here's why I'm asking about the terms of your loan. I do not foresee you being here next year saying to us, hey, guess what? Not only are we paying the bank loan and setting aside enough for the balloon payment, but we can also pay you for the, I think we're being unrealistic. The court is to say that you will be, I think you're moving in the right direction. Asking you to be there in a year, I don't see that. Do you see that realistically?
No.
I would agree with you. I think that's important that I don't think we're trying to mislead you at all.
Right.
I think next year we're going to be back asking the same thing.
So-
But I also believe, because I've helped John hook these up, and I know we are hooking people up. And I know at the end of the day, we're counting how much more dollars we're making that month because we're hooking these people up. So it is increasing. And I really believe that the more higher that number is, the more people are talking about us. And I don't believe we're done hooking up people in Arlington by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's going to increase. We have a good product. And I think we're going to do some things in the rural part of our county that are really going to be significant. So it's going to happen.
That excites me, is the rural thing. As you can get farther and farther out in the county, that is such a benefit to everyone.
And I'd like to say this because I was there with Sarah and Jim Rucker. And we had to beam it from the airport to their house. And we had some adjustments we had to make, and they had a poor router, and they bought something for good. And it was a 2-day project, and at the end of the second day, we were about 4 o'clock at night till we were done, and it wasn't working. And John sit there, and I was waiting to go home, because I fit the volunteer. He kept getting things that saying improper password. And so he keeps plugging away. I'm ready to give up. John keeps going. The bottom line is, we got them hooked up. We had a fireplace away, we had a router someplace else. And when we were done that night, they had internet. They had a great internet. And that's our goal for everything. Do it right.
So here is my suggestion for the court to consider. Let's be realistic about this. And so my suggestion would be, if we're committed to help making this work, rather than have you guys come back in a year, why don't we adjust the promissory note so that the payment comes after the bank is paid off? And then that way, the extra money that you have, you can be banking to pay off that big balloon payment. Because it's not like we're waiting for that money to come back to reinvest it. We have other monies that we can do to deploy fiber elsewhere. Rather than have you guys come back and feel like, oh my gosh, are we on the chopping blocks again every year? And it feels like every year we have to reassure you that actually we're not intending on calling the loan. And it saves on the attorney fees to rewrite it, all of those kinds of things. I mean, I think we just need to be realistic. If we're committed to making them work, then maybe we wait. I don't know how, and I don't know how the treasurer feels about this, but I'm just thinking, like, I'm trying to be realistic here. I don't see you being able to make this payment next year.
Yeah, he wants to keep his internet also.
I don't need internet, I'm good.
You liar, you said.
It's my family.
But I mean,
No.
Can't work from home.
I just want to be realistic about it, that I don't want to be sitting here again in a year and keeping, like, if the idea is, you know what, literally you're not going to be able to pay us back until that loan, the bank loan, is off your books, then maybe being realistic is just saying, okay, we're not going to expect a payment until the bank loan is paid.
I would
And the
agree with
anxiety
you.
of that.
I do have a couple of questions though. One is, and I've asked this a few times, I don't remember what the response back has been. Arlington school system's not hooked up on Arlington TV, right?
Yes, correct, you are correct. They are.
Why not? Because I don't understand why we couldn't do that. That would be-
It's funded through E-rate,
It's
and it's a
E-rate,
competitive thing that you
Yes.
guys would have to apply for.
and we'd also have to supply tech support and all that. That's all part of it. And that's over what we can do right now. It's just, I mean, as far as getting the fiber. we could've
Well,
gotten
I'm with
fiber
Sherry
easy.
that you cannot say we can't do it right now because we don't have enough money. There's got to be a plan. You
Yeah,
know,
I won't see
you
a
really have to get a plan in place on where you need to get. Because I think that's really important. And what's that revenue number you got to reach? And then the other thing, because I was thinking about this morning on my way up here. I was in Oklahoma and we had HughesNet on a satellite that barely worked.
Mhm.
And I really didn't care because I really didn't have to have it. It really wasn't a part of life. Internet today is like having a car. You gotta have a car. You gotta have internet. Gee, that's part of survival today almost. And so the whole concept, I mean, we talk about affordable internet a lot, but that affordable internet, affordable cost is gonna go up because we have to have it. The demand is, and so we really need to look at also what, where can you go with rates? I mean, you gave me a rate increase and I just said, oh, well.
Yeah, well, that, I'm
And
saying
I
that
think needs
too
to
is,
be part of, and I don't want you to lose people. It can't be self-defeating in that process, but I think the reality is, and maybe don't do it too soon, maybe part of that answer, but the reality is with the type of internet you've got, I mean, you may have had good service from CenturyLink, but I certainly did. I mean,
it was okay, it wasn't as good.
Well, I
as this,
mean,
but
I
it
had
was
like 2
okay.
weeks to get.
It was better than GorgeNet, let me tell
There
you.
you go.
2
I
weeks
had
to
that
get
too.
them to come fix something was not
Oh,
really
yeah.
good service,
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think we got a real asset here and the court needs to, and the county needs to figure out how we can support that, incorporate it into the whole picture of Gilliam County fiber and how you play a part in that and what
We want to play a part in that, but we don't feel that we are.
but you put it in your plan, it would help.
Yes, and that, yes, we definitely.
Because I don't know, like you're talking about getting it to Rutgers. And you and I talked the other day about looking at some stuff down in Olex.
Yeah.
And I got a sister in Micro that bends my ear every day about it.
And as soon
I
as I get
have
my site
family
built
like
in the
Lou as well.
baseline, I'm working with Bob Weatherford on that. As soon as I get that up, then I get Michael's site better.
And then, you know,
And
we
then
need
I
to
get-
know what you're looking at in funds to get some of those things to happen. Because it should be part of the whole process on where the
Yeah.
county's going in this, because you may have the best economical way to put it in. We don't know.
And to kind of bring you guys up to speed, because you haven't read the minutes on this piece, we are in the process, I figured you have, but for everybody else, we're in the process of hiring a telecom engineer to come in and look at the whole county and how to wire everybody. And I think the intent that we've expressed here, and I just want to reiterate, is the idea is not for the county to be competing. It's for us to find somebody who can look at the entire universe of who has assets where and who might be able to serve which customers, and to try to be creative in figuring out a solution to reach every home and business in the county. And so my expectation is once we have that engineer identified and hired, they would be getting in touch with you about, here's where we're planning on deploying. And if we only had a tower here or an extra $5,000 to make this link work here, then we could service X number of homes, and then creating sort of a comprehensive plan that then the county can pursue. To your point earlier about not being able to pursue broadband funding, the idea would be then the county is going after the funding and trying to bring in partners as we can. So it's a regional, not just this ISP trying to capture what it can. Then the county would be trying to put money behind a comprehensive plan, including with you, with home telephone, with whoever serving wherever they are countywide. The idea would be we would be folding in all of those assets. So I think that's also, to Sherry's point about you guys having a plan, if you can get started doing that, then when we have this engineer on board, they're going to be able to sit down and you can map out for them.
Right.
Okay, we're going here, we're going here, we're going here. All we need is X, Y, and Z to make this work for, say, 50 homes collectively in rural Arlington, or whatever it is. I don't know, maybe that's aggressive,
That
but
might almost be pushing.
yeah, but you know, I'm a dreamer. So, but that's sort of the point, I think, is you need the plan to be sustainable, but it also is going to help us in developing the county-wide plan and ensuring that you're part of that solution. So we need you to do the legwork on that, on where you're going, where you need to be numbers-wise. I feel I'll reiterate, is that I think we need to adjust when the payment for our loan is due, to be realistic that even if they are considerably growing this profit, you have a balloon payment that's coming. And so it's foolish to give us that money and then have the bank call the loan when that balloon payment is due and just go ahead and take the whole thing anyway in the end, because you weren't able to stash money away to actually pay
Well,
them.
and hopefully you will get viable enough by then you can renegotiate financing with the bank instead of one payment back and make a big payment against the balloon, and it's not, those talks probably ought to start at some point, when you get going what you got.
Yeah, because the bank's gonna want to see your plan too. So you need a plan.
So commissioners, how do you feel about that approach? Okay.
I think that's a good approach, and I would be, totally in favor of that, but I want it to be contingent on seeing that plan within the next 3 months. Is that out of the question?
No.
I want to see a plan. I want to know where you want to go, because you guys are passionate. And I want to see your passion on a piece of paper that says, here's where we're at, here's where we've gone, here's where we want to go, and this is how we're going to get there.
There's obviously been some shaky planning going on here, so.
And I want you to be sustainable enough that you don't have to rely on your
I
volunteers, and that you could put somebody back in the office so you aren't having to send out the notices, and so you can concentrate on the things that your expertise is doing. So that's where I want to see you be.
but I have to get outside of Arlington to do it.
Yes,
Because
yes.
there's about, I think there's probably about 70 more people that might hook up in Arlington, but they're slow, and I can't go that slow.
But
I
we
have
want
to-
you to go outside of Arlington.
I have to get outside.
We
of
have
Arlington.
family out
Yeah.
there that wants in.
I know he's wanted me to get out there a long time.
So, yeah,
I have it mapped out where I want to be.
see,
I do
you
have
do
that.
have a map.
Well,
Show us
I
your map.
know how to get to where I need to be,
That's fabulous.
even that Berry Canyon area.
Very good.
One site, I can collect them up.
Yeah, see, yeah, that's.
But I also don't
exciting.
want everybody else to know what my sites are.
Oh, okay.
Fair.
It's competitive. I get
Okay,
It's competitive.
I
so
get it.
here's what I'm thinking for next steps. Let's, John, if you could, when you go back to the office, if you could give me the details of when the timing for your bank loan.
Okay.
Then I will have legal counsel revise our loan documents to have the payment commence after that loan is wrapped up. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. This is obviously contingent on you having your plan. So we will go ahead and draw those up and tell you, I guess verbally, that we're not expecting you to make that loan payment while we're getting that wrapped up with council.
It could take 3 months to get it wrapped up with council.
So
But meantime,
in the meantime, we would
You
like
have
to
homework.
see a plan. And I'm gonna say actually that I would like to see you every year because I want to see how you're progressing on that.
yeah, just a report though, that
Yeah.
positive thing that where you come in and say, this is what
That
we've
we
done,
finally
and
made
we
a
go,
We're not
"Yay."
all amped up.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
Yeah,
I want you to come in and
We don't want you
say,
to come in defensive, we want you to come in excited. Show
Yes.
us your passion.
and go ahead.
I just want to make one comment. I was really inspired by working on the grant with John for this special projects grant. I was amazed at how many businesses and residences they already have. I mean, it is, if you read through that grant, you'll see it's an incredible amount of, in the time period that they've been working on this, I was amazed. And I've been pretty close to the project, so.
Yeah,
And they do have, you know, a lot of the, in the works as far as where they go next. They have that. They just need.
Need to show us. Need to show us.
So it's a very good project.
one question I had for you guys, what happened to the state grant?
We couldn't find money to put up front to buy all the stuff and wait for them to reimburse.
And
Don't do that again.
Well,
that
believe me, I
happens
know.
to
Come
one
back
thing.
here and ask us to help you put the money up front so that you don't lose that grant.
That would have been a really nice grant for us.
Yeah.
Yes, it would have. So don't forget, we're
Which would have
here to
helped us all,
support
John.
that.
yes,
That helps us all.
Yes, yeah. Don't
I
let
am
that happen
working
again.
with our main vendor, the gal that they've got me with now. The rep, she's involved in all the broadband planning and stuff and the loans and everything. So she's gonna work with us that way too.
Okay,
See if she can find us a way to get some of the money.
okay. One other question I had, I'm just remembering some of the financials that we went through previously. Your TV has always been kind of a loss leader, I think.
Yeah,
It's gone.
It's gone.
It's
Well,
gone.
I've got some,
I-
plus you got a
that's-
bunch of equipment
that
down
was
there
my
you're never
question.
gonna use.
I need to figure out who might want to buy it,
Yeah,
but
you
there's
have-
not many people that want to buy old analog
yeah. people are looking
modulators.
forward, yeah.
And
Well, yeah,
with
nobody's
the-
looking for that, are they?
with the C-band auction, all the receivers are changing now too.
You
That
get
was
them to
another
film
thing
more
we had to
movies
look at.
here, we might be able to get to them.
Oh.
Movie, but other than that,
Satellite dishes, somebody might buy them, but they're not gonna go for much.
I'd like to make a comment about that TV too. I think there's a sense that we let a lot of people down by not continuing with that. And really, we were losing $800 a month by keeping that up. And our main customers were older people. And they're struggling to get out into the 21st century. They like their old system. And the time had come, because the rates were going up on these channels tremendously.
Yeah.
And they struggle to this day, but streaming is where we're at now, streaming.
Yeah, the internet took over what was there.
Yeah.
We
And
even-
that's where it's a struggle. We offer to let them come down there. We'll try to help them learn how to use Hulu with them. They can do it. Hey, I struggled initially, but wow, I can't believe how much you can get.
Well, we went and bought one
I
of
still don't
each
stream very well.
streaming box, just so we could say, come on down here, we'll be happy to show you. And so, I mean, that is a phenomenal option, but yeah, like Mark said, that some people just.
They're not at us today.
They're so bad.
Well, I do want to commend you because I think you have taken, it sounds like the board has made some hard decisions and taken some steps that you needed to take to get right side up. And so, I mean, it's great. You're in the green, right? So, so I think I'll get started on getting the promissory note. I think we're gonna have to bring it back and vote on it. And so what we've done in the past is just said, basically, we're not expecting the payment. And so the time that it takes to get it sort of cleaned up with our legal counsel, it is what it is. And so don't plan on cutting that check. I just need to have some information from you, John, on when the dates are. And then we will plan on having you back on the court's agenda here in about 3 months, because we want to see that plan. And also to connect you. Hopefully at that point we have our engineer that's looking at the whole thing and can sit down with you and your board and talk about what your plans are and see how we can integrate that into the county-wide vision for how we do internet for everybody. Is there anything more on that piece? And then the takeaway is, if you get a grant that's required reimbursables, do not let that money go out the door again, please. Come see us if you need help making the cash flow work on that piece.
Thank you. It's very enjoyable.
We might seem.
It always is.
But we're not. We want to help
We don't-
you.
We don't
Let
want you
us
to
help
not
you.
apply for those. because
Right.
it's free money. I mean, if you
Yeah.
can-
Well, and a lot of the problem is we're what, a 503c12,
501c.
501c12, and they only wanted either municipalities or C3s, and it's like,
C8s.
yeah, everybody but us, so.
COVID didn't
That's
help us a
frustrating.
bit on getting it
For
done.
some reason,
And
I
as the
remember
county-
Fazio saying that this was gonna be targeted to rural
Yeah, well,
co-ops.
they say
Are-
that.
Just a semantics question. Are you planning on changing our name? Then if you're not doing
I don't think
TV
we
anymore?
easily can because of the
Probably
way
not.
it was originally formatted.
Yeah, we can do business as.
We can do doing business as, but we can't get out of being a C12, I don't think.
And I wasn't
Yeah,
talking about
yeah,
maybe changing
but-
that, but I just thinking
But
since
you're
you
only
dropped,
away from Arlington.
Yeah.
since you dropped the
Get away
TV,
from
I
Arlington
was
TV.
curious if you were.
Yeah, because it isn't just
Super fast,
Arlington anymore either. It's,
Yeah, it's gonna be bigger.
Arlington might be down.
Well, you know,
So,
what you could do to brand yourself might help you market if you can figure out a good way to brand
Yes.
yourself.
Right.
That's part of discussion.
That's what I'm thinking. It might be time you drop the
Told
TV.
you, not your dad.
Well,
said that.
and when you come into those snags, is there some way that local government can help you get past that? Where they're saying, well, you don't qualify because you're this, but if the county says, but we're this and we're.
I don't know, since we don't
I mean, we could
technically
always try.
fall under, if then the county applied with the purpose of earmarking it for,
Mhm,
you know, Arlington, that would
Right.
certainly work.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So those are options we need to consider. Don't give something up without,
We will annoy you with future grants. I
Oh.
promise.
That
we
would be
would be
great.
happy to be annoyed with future grants. There won't be any annoyance. We'll gain your passion of that.
Oh, and real quick, Dan, the question you asked about rates, I think, what is it, 50, what now?
we're 64.
64, and that's for 50 up and 50 down.
Mhm.
And I think your RFP for the fiber council the proposal was 40 for 25
down.
25 down, 3 up. And so you can get stuff pretty quick, but you can't get that
Don't get-
video of your grandkids to
Right.
your cousin.
Yeah, and that was the one that the city released.
Yeah.
And it's mirroring the federal.
Yeah, well, no, and all
Yeah.
I'm saying is, I think our rates for the
For the
speeds we're doing
service. for-
are, they're very
They're
in line
competitive.
with what you would expect.
Okay,
And our customers we're gaining right now, a lot of them are moving into Arlington. It's all work at home. They want to be able to have a
Right,
good
right.
connection, solid connection, work at home. And even some of the people in the rural area I've talked to, they're calling saying, well, do you have service at this house? I say, well, we're trying to get there. Because I know there's at least 3 or 4 that are planning on working from home.
Yeah.
Once they get some good internet.
Mhm.
And Starlink isn't it either. Starlink, it's not consistent enough.
And
So-
Elon Musk is gonna cause us problems.
He's gonna get in our way.
Everything will be satellite.
But he gets all that money from the government to do it.
Right, exactly, because he's got money, so they give him money.
Right.
It's the old story.
Doesn't make sense.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Of course, of course.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll be in touch with you.
Okay.
And you can just circle back with me on the loan details. And then
And we'll have Teresa connect back with you to get you on the agenda with your plan.
Okay. That worked.
thanks, guys.
We're just gonna leave
Are
these.
you okay?
I'm gonna drag it over here. I know how to drag these chairs.
Yeah, there's no wheels on those ones.
Yeah, so the witnesses don't fall off the.
Yeah, That's exactly.
That's the jury, we don't want them to
the jury,
fall
that's
off.
all. Okay, let's go on to 8.6, which is consider approval of personal services contract with Carla McLean Consulting for planning consulting services related to Oregon Department of Transportation school application for Mayville aggregate site. All of our planning stuff are always like multiple sentences.
Right.
I noticed that.
It's a mouthful.
So I do have a revision. This is just the scope of work. It's not the contract.
Okay. I could do this and then you won't have to walk all the way around. How's that?
Okay, so after we sent out everything for the agenda, then I had a conversation with Ms. McLean late last week, early this week, short week. And she has revised and she added, when we were talking about the project and the scope of work, there's a new section added. So it's the 3rd box down. It's the 35-day notice. That's a requirement. It has to be sent to the Department of Land Use and Conservation. It was an oversight, so there's 4 hours plugged in there. The target date is July 19th to have that issued, just to give you kind of a heads up. And then at the very, the second page, the very last box is added a contingency to up to 20 hours. In my conversations with Ms. McLean, I conveyed to her my project load is getting very heavy. I go, this says assist. I go, you're going to have to take more of a lead role. I go, I'm just not going to be able to do this. We've got to move this forward for ODOT. Oregon Department of Transportation for this aggregate site. She has worked with ODOT. She has several connections further east in doing activities and applications with ODOT. And so I think this is a great fit based on this revision. And so it could be a total of up to 71 hours. And based on her fee of $100, that'd be $7,100. This is going to split the fiscal years, I understand, because we're already in June right now. She'll move as fast as she can as soon as we can get the contract all vetted and everyone signed. We have received feedback from legal counsel. We have not implemented any of those comments yet. I'm still trying to figure out how all that works, if that's me, if that's Lisa or Teresa, or how we're trying to figure all that out. But we do have comments from legal counsel. So as soon as we can wrap that up, and if the court is inclined to move forward with this, my recommendation would be that it would be pending, that we get everything approved by legal, and then we get that off to Ms. McLean, and we get that signed, and we just hit the road running. Just to give the court a time frame-ish on kind of how this would look like. Hopefully we can get this rolling this month. Due to the noticing requirements, and what this involves is it does involve a comprehensive plan amendment, which you guys just went through one earlier this morning with the Dunn's addition. So it's a minimum of 1 planning commission meeting and a minimum of at least 1 first reading, public hearing before the county court, and then a 2nd reading before the county court. So when you put all those timeframes in there and spacing and public notices, I'm guessing, and with the appeal timeframe, I'm aiming for the end of November to have this all wrapped up. No later than the end of the calendar years. And it will go as fast as she can make it move. So, does the county court have any questions?
So I will say, in case you guys don't know, Carla McLean is Morrow County's former planner.
Oh, okay.
And so
She went out
when
on her own?
she did, and so when Michelle brought this up to Lisa and asked if this might be a possibility, I went ahead and contacted one of the commissioners over in Morrow County just to see, like, what do you think? What are your thoughts? And he said she is absolutely just very competent, qualified, would be able to do this work very professionally and kind of step in and help alleviate some of the load for Michelle. So my recommendation is to approve it and to move forward with it so that Michelle can focus on all of her other pending projects that she's got going on, which are, there's quite a few of those as well. So
I don't have any questions.
I move to approve the personal service agreement with Carl McLean Consulting LLC for land use consulting services related to the Oregon Department of Transportation's Goal 5 application for Mayville aggregate site pending legal review and approval.
And I'll second that.
it's been moved and seconded that we approve the personal services agreement with Carla McLean Consulting LLC for land use consulting services related to Oregon Department of Transportation's Goal 5 application for the Mayville aggregate site pending legal review and approval. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank
We'll
you.
work with you on getting that wrapped up.
Yes, hopefully we can get that all wrapped up and hopefully signatures very, very soon.
Yeah.
We can touch base later today on the legal review.
Next
Sounds
steps.
good. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
All right.
Michelle. Okay, we're in the home stretch, folks. 8.7, consider award of fiscal year 2021-2022 operational support and spring capital investment grants. As you guys remember, on May 12th, the Budget Committee met and considered the applications for the operational support and capital investment grant programs. There's a document in here outlining the decisions that they made. We looked at the grant program guidelines, and in them, we actually say that the Budget Committee's decision is final.
Yes.
Um,
So I'm not
Sure
sure
is.
why we're here with this. Yeah, that's what the document says.
so I don't know how we want to proceed.
So if that's the case, then we really have approved them by approving the budget. Isn't that true?
Yeah, I have some, that, you know, I voiced before, some concerns. I thought we should have probably up the funding for the
Childcare,
childcare.
Arlington Childcare,
No,
Condon.
Condon.
part of the problem is they're fairly even, where they were in the review process, but there's a lot more going on up here than there is in Arlington. And the thing I thought about I went up to her to visit and talk and went through stuff. I've got their budget. I haven't been clear through their budget. The stuff they have done is actively pursue funding aggressively more than anybody else is applying for grants.
Yes.
They employ more people. They're probably in the top 5 in the county, maybe for sure the top 10 in employing people in the county. And they got a lot going on there, and they're a real asset to especially the Condon area. And I just felt like we had to fund it based on their requirements. If we want to have that kind of service. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I just don't know what our,
How you get around? I didn't realize that, well, we even talked before the last court meeting.
Well, we did, and then I was like, wait a second, because I was trying to remember what we actually said in the grant guidelines after that, after we had that discussion. Because originally, the county court made the final decision, and then I think the last time we revised it,
And I don't know why that,
we said the
why
budget
you would
committee.
even want that, take that flexibility away. But I'm part of that, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thought at the time was that there had been some times before when the budget committee had said, no, we're not going to fund something, and the court overruled them. And the budget committee's response was, well, then why are we
Why
here?
are we even looking at it?
If the court's just
I
gonna,
mean, I think that, you know,
And again, if that's the case, then it doesn't belong here to be voted on again, if that's truly the case.
yeah, the only thing I really actually need is the authorization to prepare the grant agreements and sign them, because otherwise they would have to individually come before us. And so that's really,
And so that's what the motion says.
that's really what the, yeah, is to reaffirm what the budget committee has said and to authorize me to actually move forward and sign the grant agreements.
wow.
What do we want to do, folks?
Well, do we have any choice? I mean, that's, what options do we have?
I mean, out of fairness, I'm not sure that we have, I'm not sure that we want to open up the prospect that we're just going to disregard the guidelines.
Well, I understand what you're saying. I just, you know.
And then maybe we need to
Revisit the guidelines before the next
So this
cycle.
doesn't happen again.
Detrimental to them.
So that would be my recommendation, is that we move forward so that folks do get their money. And then we just do a work session again, where we look at the guidelines. We do that anyway, generally, in the fall, just to make sure there's nothing we needed to clean up. And so then I think we can, especially for this one, because it's an operational, so it's just one time a year. Then we can, if the court wants to revise it, then that process, then we could revise it then for the upcoming year. Thoughts on that approach?
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay, could I get a motion then to basically reaffirm the budget committees and to allow me to move forward on the grant agreements?
I move to award the fiscal year 2021-2022 operational support and spring cycle capital investment grants as approved by the budget committee, and authorize the county judge to prepare and execute grant agreements reflecting the terms and conditions discussed.
I'll second. You have no choice.
It's been moved and
I feel
seconded.
handcuffed here.
I know.
Unfortunately.
Wow.
It's been moved and seconded that we award the fiscal year 2021-2022 operational support and spring cycle capital investment grants as approved by the budget committee, and to authorize the county judge to prepare and execute grant agreements reflecting the terms and conditions discussed. Is there further discussion? One thing I do want to note is typically for the capital investment grants, we've done those on a reimbursable basis. Are you guys comfortable with that? Which we allow some flexibility if somebody doesn't want to carry, if they can't cash flow it, we sometimes allow them to send the invoice directly to us and we pay it, basically. And we talked about in the budget committee doing that as well with the school districts college program, so that they're just getting reimbursed for whatever.
For how many they, yeah, that makes sense.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay. So then all those in favor?
Give money that they aren't going to need.
Yes, exactly. All those in favor on the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Begrudgingly.
Begrudgingly.
Oh, man, well, it's, you know, it's
Yeah,
being new to the process
yeah.
because
Yeah.
Understand
we
you,
get the brakes on quick enough,
Yeah.
right?
not understanding
And I
the
apologize
details to what's
because,
going on because, well, and, you know, another year down the road, I'm gonna know a lot more about the details
How
of the
we-
organizations and those things. This is a mess.
Our first, and I apologize because when you first raised it, I thought, oh yeah, we authorize them. And then when I got back to the office, I was like, we better pull those guidelines and see what the book guidelines actually said on that. So let's go into announcements and next meetings. The next meeting is June 16th, 2021. And in keeping with our previous discussion, we're going to be ping-ponging between Arlington and Condon. And so the next one will be in Arlington. And I think, Teresa, we're going to be at the Fire Services Building. The Fire Services Building, so that folks can hear us on the Zoom.
Until the board gets their acoustics fixed.
Exactly. Let's go into announcements. Sherry, do you want to start us off?
Well, what do I have to tell you? Wyden is having a town hall tomorrow, which I have on my calendar. I'm also planning to attend the City of Arlington Revitalization Planning meeting on Monday at 6. And then if you'll keep an eye out, I'll be gone for a couple of days next week. So don't forget, the
Is
dog
your
will be
dog
gone.
going?
Dog will be gone too. Make sure nobody's breaking in. And then of course, Northland Chapter coming up later in the month, and whatever else pops into the calendar.
What about you, Pat? What do you got going on?
I really haven't had anything the last couple of weeks other than the county college.
How's it going?
It's good.
Have they made
It
any
was
plan
all
to get together?
DA and sheriff's departments this time. So,
Ah, that's interesting.
I remember that day.
so,
It's all still over Zoom, right?
that's, well, the next one's gonna be on Zoom, and then I think it's, I want to say September, they're gonna go in person.
Oh, that would be
But
great.
they are
Yeah.
doing some committee meetings. They got one in Summer on June 16th with committee meetings in person. So they got some of that started, and they did one in February.
How big is your class? How many people are?
What would be kids? I'm gonna say about 40.
Oh, wow. It's a big class. A lot of
Oh,
turnover.
the other thing was I did reach out to Morrow County Commissioners regarding our
Crickets?
Mormon cricket deal, and I have
too.
not been able to get in touch with Jim, but he is Commissioner Doherty, but he is, when I talked to Commissioner Russell, he said that Mr. Doherty is talking to all the growers, ranch farmers in that area, and then he would get back to me when he got his feedback from them. I said, well, do what you can.
I did talk to
So coming your way,
Commissioner
buddy. They're coming your way, buddy.
Commissioner
You don't want
Lindsay, and reiterated that to her too, that it was expensive.
They have a bit of an good argument in that a lot of where they're going in Morrow County is non-tillable ground, or it's tillable ground.
Yeah.
And if the ground is tilled, then it's gonna kill them and disrupt the egg process. And so they're probably coming from where they're coming from out of Gilliam County,
They were also
not-
concerned about the amount of BLM and Navy owned property that they were headed for as well, what they were gonna be able to do about that. But the freeway is covered with them between Arlington and
Really?
yeah. And
I
did you
own
see them on
Junction.
your way up? Yeah, and Highway
I
74.
know, of course, I wasn't paying attention. Lily said you saw them on 19 yet.
I saw them this morning, and I hadn't seen them previously. But we went that direction on Sunday, and when we went again on Wednesday, maybe it wasn't that soon. Anyway, I was surprised that there weren't any one day, and the next they were everywhere on the freeway.
Nasty little creatures.
They're ugly little creatures. I was gonna stop and pick up a live one and bring it in.
Oh, good. In
I
a
thought
jar.
you'd really like it.
Oh,
In
God.
the
Yeah.
jar, please.
Related to that, Commissioner Lindsay was on the call with Leah that I described earlier, and I kind of previewed Jordan's ask for ODA to have more resources with Leah. And so Commissioner Lindsay and I have been lobbying the governor's office and helping connect our local extension agents, both Jordan and his colleague in Morrow County, with the powers that be at the state to actually adequately describe what's going on the ground and what resources specifically they need from ODA. So that we're continuing
And
that
Jordan
discussion
did a presentation to
Okay.
Morrow
to
County.
Morrow County. Other things that I have going on, Frontier Talent Budget Committee. Okay, so we met last month and it did not go as smoothly as one would hope being on the budget committee. So we are not.
Did you say Frontier?
Frontier. Basically mid-budget, the staff who put it together realized that some funds had been double counted, which put us in a pretty significant hole. And so we're meeting again next week to try to fix that. But what that means is probably the counties are going to have to kick in a little bit more than what we thought to close the budget hole. I think we're about $100,000 short in the end right now. But structurally, what this brought up is that Frontier Talent is not financially sound. And so I'm just raising this because this happened when Sherry and I first came in too. And so I don't want anybody to be caught off guard that right now the hole is small enough that we should be able to plug it. But we're going to have to figure out something else for how to keep it solvent. And so Sheriff Smith was actually one of Wheeler County's budget committee member, and he suggested that maybe it's time to look at actually charging user fees for agencies that are on the system. And there's also just some discussion because Jefferson County uses it for quite a bit of things, and there's some questions about whether they're paying enough to cover the actual cost for what we're providing to them. So, but I wanted to put that on your radars that it was a shock. Catherine's already stepped off, but she was on it as well. And Mr. Deason, who was one of the attorneys still there, also brought up that there's a potential $2 to $3 million liability for USAC coming back and demanding repayment on E-rate. So the Frontier Telenet Board has some big decisions to make about how they're going to fund this thing. And I just want to put that on your radar, that it is not quite the mess it was before, but it could get there in a hurry if we don't fix some systemic problems with it.
Again, raising its head.
Yes, the E-rate thing that will not die.
Way.
So I want to, in full transparency, let you know that it was not quite a disaster, but it felt like it as a board member sitting there watching how big of a hole it was. Other than that, let me see what else we got going on. Mostly just AOC meetings coming up. And check. We are still moving forward with wrapping up Tri-County Community Corrections. So I'm anticipating our next meeting will have those documents to dissolve Tri-County and create Gilliam Wheeler Community Corrections. We'll have salary schedules coming up. Obviously, we're still working on the CBA. Those are all pending. We have almost finalized the RFP to go out for the engineer services. So we should be seeing proposals come back, I think at the end of June. So June, I have that right? I think so. So we should see those sometime in July probably for us to take a look at. The way that we structured that is that the Fiber Council, since we've got some folks who have been looking at fiber proposals for a while, is going to take the initial look at it and then give its thoughts to us, so that we're not just trying to figure out how to read these things blindly, if that makes some sense. Anything else for the good of the order?
We don't have anything.
Okay. Next meeting again is the 16th of June in Arlington, and it is 12:45, and I will adjourn the meeting.